Good evening. Good evening. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the sexual miseducation of black men. I'm going to give it a few minutes for just a couple of people to jump on, but we're not going to wait too long before we jump into this conversation because tonight we have a very insightful hot topic that as always that like I try to bring to you guys or like I've have been bringing to you guys every week. Thank you for tuning in uh, every Tuesday at 7:30. I'm going to have some very special guests on with me, and we're going to be talking about different topics as it pertains to the sexual miseducation and re-education of black men. For those of you that don't know, I started I will say a little nonprofit or a little mentoring program that tries to teach not only young men but also adult men the proper way of measuring our manhood. A lot of us learned that um, measuring our manhood is by the number of women we sleep with or how well we perform in bed, but it's our mission to teach the real measurements of manhood. We also want to explore and examine, the psychological and the emotional and the relational issues that some of our unhealthy sexual habits has caused us and ways to overcome those habits. So, I've always say one of a black man's biggest challenge or biggest struggle is often fighting the temptation of sex, meaningless, unadulterated sex that has stopped and has destroyed a lot of us and knocked us off our path, our path and our purpose. And I have a mission to try to re-educate young men and also guide older men that still struggle with that. So I'll give it a few minutes for some people to jump on as I check my settings and make sure that people in Facebook land can also see me and leave comments. Um, but as you come on, please say hello, say what's up. So I want to make sure that the settings is right and I can see your comments. Okay. All right. I think we good. I think we're good. I see my brother Tamel on. So like I said, we're not gonna wait forever for people to jump on because this is a conversation that the brothers can have and whoever missed the beginning part, they can see it on the replay. But I definitely want to introduce, some of my very good brothers, special guests that I have on tonight to help join and add some insight into some wisdom to this conversation that we're having. First is one of the good brothers that I've been on several panels with. We do something with Agape Love Network. Every few months we get on there and we just have some great conversations about all different type of topics. This brother always brings some good insight. He always have his special flair of the way he presents his ideas. My brother, I like to call him Legend, but he has several different names. But my brother Robert Legend tonight.
Thank you very
Thank
much, bro.
you.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight as we talk about this topic, something that hits home with me because growing up, I studied music, so I had to listen to it on TV as well. And it's going to be a real interesting conversation. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, Legend Damian Simmons, and I thank you for joining.
All right, thank you. And other brother, I had the pleasure of meeting. We was at a purity conference not too long ago, and my brother was the MC, and he just did a great job. Just speaking to the youth. Really speaking life and speaking some wisdom into them. So it was definitely a pleasure meeting him that day, and I'm glad that we're able to stay connected, and I was able to have him on to tonight. My brother Moses. I'm not sure, a
Hey, beloved.
minister, reverend, or just
Yeah.
Moses.
I'm the senior visionary of Royal Cloth Ministries, and the name of our church is School of Light. So yeah,
Man,
that's what I'm doing.
okay, School of Light. Tell us a little bit more about that School of Light.
Oh yeah. So I didn't really. It wasn't my desire to be a pastor, but you say yes to the call, and we named it School of Light because we believe that part of what God want to do is create more education for the believers. We love focusing on having a powerful worship experience, but a lot of people leave uneducated, not only just in the things of God, but the things in practical life. So School of Light is all about, being an educational center and a resource center to the community where people can come and learn and grow, whether about your spiritual gifts or, be empowered to overcome anger. So,
Mm,
this is amazing because this connects to like some of the things that I be thinking about and praying for God to send solutions and wisdom, especially for men, to overcome this secret mountain that we struggle overcoming, most of us. So this falls right in line what I'm believing God for, because we need help.
man, I like that, man. I know we definitely going to connect more on that. When later on in the future. I know we talked about it when we first met, but we definitely have to make
Yeah,
something happen. Yeah, and
absolutely.
Legend, I know you have a podcast as well. A very a very interesting podcast. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. And I always appreciate you stopping in. We love to see you. I'm the co-host of Extreme Truth Podcast, which comes on Monday nights, 8 p.m. on Zoom. So it's me and two other brothers, James Icon Grant and James Jimmy Bones Brown. So it is a mature show. We do go over current topics and affairs going on in the news. And at the end of every show, we do have a social topic of the week where we want to give people a chance to get things off their chest, speak their mind, give their experiences, because a lot of it helps a lot, and we've grown a nice large community out of the podcast that I do. So we always encourage everybody to stop down. Once again, no rules. Not no rules. Like we don't have naked people on there or anything like that, people. But we want you to come on and say what you can say. Yeah, I just want to make sure because I know it's a different
No
platform.
naked people, my
No
God.
naked people. No naked people. Maybe a little cursing here and there. That's about it.
It's a very very lively conversation. I'm definitely going to join next time I have the opportunity. But
Appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. But for tonight, the topic is the message and the images of the music. As I said, this is sexual miseducation of black men. And if you're a black man growing up in America around a certain time, or maybe through all time, I'm not sure. We was influenced by the music that we listened to. It came with all different type of messages. The videos had all different type of messages and images that influence the way we view sex, the way we
Right.
view women, the way we view ourselves, the way we view our community. So tonight I want to talk about that. Talk about the influence that it had over us personally, the influence that we see it having over the youth today, and as more mature men, what changes can happen? What can we do, or what needs to happen? So my first question will be, from your personal experience, if you could think back to your childhood, your adolescence, whatever it might be, what would you say was the biggest influence on the way that you develop your view or your perspective on sex and women and yourself for that matter?
You
So for
asking
me
me first?
myself, no, you
Now,
can go ahead.
anybody can go and jump in.
Okay.
Story to tell already. Go ahead, bro.
For me, honestly, I would say two things that influenced me the most about sex, or probably three things. Number in women was pornography. Um, I used to see my parents. Go up, please. I used to see my parents watching it together with other couples like it was a movie. So, you know, that impression is like, oh, it's a hobby, it's a hobby. It's entertainment, right? So, that's happened as a child, sitting on the snares trying to sneak and watch and see what they're watching. But not only that, being exposed to sex at a young age, being molested by a babysitter. So, it's she was older, I guess a teenager, and I had to be like 4 or 5. So it's like she trying things on me, and
Wow.
just being exposed to it in these perverted ways. As a child, I just grabbed onto it as a hobby and entertainment. You know what I'm saying? That's something to try out. And then, as a kid, growing up in the inner city in the projects is like, kids is trying it out. So it's like we playing house. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Everybody gonna act like they never played house, but
Oh
you play
no.
house or hide and go get it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we already
7 minutes,
exposed
7 minutes of
and
heaven.
seeing our parents, what I'm saying, treat it like a hobby, something entertaining, and then people trying things out on us. And then as kids, we trying it out on each other. We playing hide and go get it in house and all type of stuff. And you just grow up with the perversion of what it really is. And that was my experience. And then my uncle, he was 6'6", basketball star, high school to college, 6'6", tall, slim basketball star. So it's like I'm looking up to him. I want to do everything he doing. You know what I'm saying? And he had a lot of women. I'm not saying he had a lot of women at one time, but he had a lot of women, period. He just jumped to woman every week. You see him with another beautiful woman. So it was like, oh, that's what I want to be like. So all of these things just shape like a unhealthy reality of the part that sex actually plays in the human experience. You know, so I don't I don't want to talk a lot, but those kind of the
Nah,
things that kind of shape me with it as a child.
yeah, man. Nah, I appreciate, man. I appreciate you just being so transparent. Like you came straight out the gate with it. So yeah.
Yeah. Anybody gonna
Nah,
get free if we don't tell the truth.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
Mhm.
Yeah. What about you, Legend? What was the biggest influence for you?
Mine's was two things. That was between family slash friends slash school, and what I saw on TV. Going into what I saw on TV first, house much unless when I was with family, whatever the case was. So, while I was there watching TV, you had all these things. Mostly back in that day, it's raunchy as it is now. But just as Brother Moses picked up, the parents always had that funny channel or that channel you're not supposed to watch. So I never caught my family watching that per se, but my older nephews and siblings, they knew about it. So when, let's say, my father would sneak out, or go upstairs or fall asleep, we go in there, we turn it to Playboy, and we'd be looking like, oh my God, I missed that, what have you.
Mhm.
A lot of us in our family, as far as family and friends go, was exposed to a lot of sexual situations very early. And as far as was in school, there was another schoolmate that I had this girl, and she used to have me doing crazy things or whatever the case. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm sure she probably didn't know what she was doing. But like I said back then, you see what you see on TV, you hear what your friends and everybody talk about, and what's supposed to be you're supposed to be doing all this grown up stuff, and you don't have no idea what you're doing. So you go ahead and you try to kind of fit in, not even knowing all the dangers, all the responsibilities, anything that could come with if things go wrong. Um, so yeah, most of it was just I was always going. I would talk with my older nephews, more or less, because my siblings are like 2 years older than me, so they were kind of more like adults. So I want to talk to somebody more closer into my area. And my nephews, I mean, I say nephews, I mean that my nephews, we all kind of grew up around the same time. 20 years later, after my
Mhm.
mother had the first sibling, she started having me and my little brother, and I grew up with my nephews and my sister that started having her kids. So they were into the streets. They were into a lot of sexual situations. So I kind of sponged off of them and what I saw on TV and what craziness my parents would tell me too.
Yeah. Uh, Thanks, man. Thanks for just sharing that with us. And it's crazy, from listening to your stories, I can see that we have some similar stories or some similar experiences. Not everything exact, but I guess growing up in a certain time in a certain area. Some things probably are similar across the board. So tonight we're specifically talking about the message in music, and the images that we've seen. And as I'm listening to you guys' story, I'm thinking about my own personal experience when it comes to music. And I think, and I grew up in a time, I grew up on hip hop. I grew up in a time, or I should say, in a household where my mom, dad really didn't allow it in the house. They didn't care for it. So only time I could really listen to it if I was out in the street or, at a friend's house or something of that nature. But I remember at one point, I got a little bit older, and I don't know, maybe I was, I guess, smelling myself a little bit. And I'm probably about to age myself, but I know that the first CD or tape that I really bought and listened to was the what was that? The Slick Rick. I think The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. I don't know if you guys familiar with it,
Mm-hmm.
but you can just remember taking that tape and going upstairs and popping it in. And the first song that came on was "Treat Her Like a Prostitute." And the lyrics was, or the chorus was, "Treat her like a prostitute. Don't treat no girl real well unless you're sure of the scoop." And on that CD was a bunch of other songs, but that song really stood out to me. It was the first one on the CD or on the tape at that time, and I kind of gravitated to that one, like the message of it, the lyrics in it, and you can only imagine how something like that would influence a young guy on the way he views women, the way he views relationships, and the way he starts to view himself as, being a pimp. And of course, it didn't stop there when it came to the music for me. I can name tons of songs and titles that had kind of the same messages and the same type of influence or images that it placed in my head. So my question to you guys, is there any song in particular or any artist or any video that popped out in your head from your childhood that when you saw it, it really influenced the way you started looking at sex, the way you started looking at women? Man,
I
anybody
mean,
could jump in.
For
yeah,
me,
yeah. I guess,
definitely. I actually I used it to promote. Uh, Go, man.
Thank you.
um, so for me, right, I'm sitting there watching TV, and I don't know if y'all remember the box. I'm gonna tell my age right now. So there used to be this channel station called the Box where you could call
right.
in. It was like it costed you a certain amount of money, and you can order videos. You know what I'm saying? And then you just sit there and you wait for your video to play. So out of nowhere, this new video plays. This new artist called Adina Howard, and the name of the
Oh,
song was "Freak Like Me." And for some reason, for me, I'd never seen a video like this before, and I don't know if y'all are familiar with who she, because she was like a one or two hit wonder, which is sad to say. But this video,
Mm-hmm.
you had the girls there dancing and they were moving. It was kind of like the early day twerk. It's kind of like it broke the gospel of where twerk would go these days. And I was looking like, wow. Now, mind you, before her, there was what was it, Two Live Crew. I'm thinking of the other cats, so Mix a Lot. All the people that got banned. So I'd seen their videos up until that it was like banned out the United States. So Adina Howard was the first one that I saw like that, and they let it rock. Hers wasn't anywhere near as raunchy, as the others. But I'm like, okay. So then after that, you had all these other artists coming out. But I know like Adina Howard, Sir Mix-a-Lot, um, like I said, those type of artists, and like I said, their music wound up getting banned. It makes you kind of
Yeah.
curious, especially when your kid is number one. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Oh, look at that. You know what I'm saying? Look at the girls, look at the women. And second of all, it gets banned. And you're like, well, why they banned? I mean, it was kind of good. It kind of makes you a little bit more curious. You take candy away from the kid, despite they have a cavity. They're going to cry because they want the candy. You're not telling them why it's not good for them to see. And then you grow up watching that type of stuff, and if you don't get
Mm-hmm.
like familiarized with what's in a video and what's in reality, so but yeah, those videos. Those were the first ones I saw that kind of like caught me by surprise. And kind of, okay, so sex is part of music. I'm sure it was all the time, obviously, but that's like one of the ones, the visual ones for me were more of okay, I sat there and I watched when I could
Yeah,
get away with it.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel that. It's just music is so deep because I feel like it opened me up different when I could see the videos, like the box and stuff like that, Adina Howard and all of that. They had all the whole video. They had people just popping away like popcorn.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I think back even before that, like NWA and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I probably look young. I'm a little older, but I remember my uncle. I probably had to be like 5'6". I don't know, maybe somewhere around. I don't even know when it was. Maybe 5'6", 7", somewhere around there. And my uncle like 17 or something, and he go in the store and get the NWA tape. He pop it in the cassette, and my grandmother like, don't be listening that around, Mo. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a little kid,
mhm,
and it made me think like, damn, what's NWA all about? You know what I mean? But the crazy thing about it is, obviously, my parents never let me listen to anything like that. But when I would go to my friend's house or wherever, they would be listening to that. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And I'm bringing that up to say, what's deep about it is because I remember going to camp for the summer. I had to be like 5 or 6. I remember going to camp, a summer camp in the hood, right? And we would drive the bus to the park, and we would be on the bus, and it's almost like our camp counselors was encouraging it because they was teenagers. We would be rapping all the lyrics to NWA. We try to skip the curse words, but we just be rapping the lyrics. 5, 6, 7, we just rapping the whole songs. And I wanted to bring that up because I'm singing these songs, you know what I'm saying? Effective on women and stuff like that. Songs super raunchy. We singing these songs and don't even really know everything that we singing. Like at a very
nah,
young age, like we
Hmm.
singing this stuff like it's the popular song. We just be singing it. So it's just crazy how that I remember singing this stuff and just singing the words, but not really fully understand what I was singing until I started seeing certain videos. Like then it's like once I saw the videos, it just open your heart up and it open your curiosity up about what's going on. So it's deep. You know what I'm saying? It get deep when we talk about it.
yeah. And oftentimes when we talk
Hmm.
about it, people might argue and say that it's just music. But I always feel like the messages, the images, it becomes way more than music for us. Um, maybe when you're 5 or 6, you're just kind of like on autopilot and repeating songs. But as you get older and you start to understand what they're actually saying, you 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 want to act out what they're saying in them songs. You know, I can remember probably being my late teens,
Hmm.
and when Snoop and them came out, and Snoop motto
Right.
was, ain't no funny if my homies can't get enough. And it became a real life goal for me and my boys to have sex with somebody and pass her to the next dude, or him pass her to the next dude. So it's more than just music. Like that thing really gets embedded inside of us. The messages of the music, the guys that we look at, the things that they're trying to teach. So my next question is, what are some of those lessons that us as young black men learned, and even some of the lessons that the younger men are learning today, about women and sex and themselves? What's some of those lessons that or those seeds that are getting dropped in their heads and got dropped in our head?
Yeah. I believe like it first thing, one of the things I learned was like a perverted way of fulfilling my purpose. So in the word it says that God created man to be fruitful and multiply and to have dominion. So I realized when I look back over my life, I was always taught to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion, but I was always taught it the wrong way. So, have dominion to subdue the enemy or to conquer. I was taught to conquer the wrong thing. So like, just like what you were saying, when I look at my uncle or when we would talk in our circles, even as kids, we would lie about sex. We like 7, 8 years old lying about sex. And it became a goal to whoever can get the most women was the strongest man. So we're practicing that mindset at 7 and 8 years old, lying about sex, lying on our man. Yeah, I had sex. We talking about we 8 years old. That's because we probably was playing house. But you know what I'm saying? But look at what we're practicing. Look at the indoctrination that we're being taught and we're rehearsing it. And then now we're competing with one another about how many women we can have dominion or conquer over. So we're being taught, I was being taught that the more women I had equaled me being more powerful and dominant, how the more women that I had or the more women that I conquered. I'm saying conquered because that's the way it was. It's like, man, I bet you, we would bet each other like, yo, we go to the club, let's see who get the most numbers. Like we betting like who going to smash the most females. So it became a conquest. In a funny way, I respected females. Like in a weird way, it was like I wasn't like disrespecting them. I respected them in a weird way, but it was like my goal was more important than, I would lie, say I love them, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I would tell them anything to win. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just thinking about that looking back. Like that's why it was so easy for me to grab hold to these things, because this is what I was created to do. I just wasn't created to conquer women and be fruitful and multiply in that way. So, you know what I'm saying? I just, one of the things I learned being young.
Nah, that's real. And I can definitely relate too. What about you, Legend?
Yes, I remember like the music once I got into dating and all that growing up, excuse me, like we wasn't and bees ain't nothing but hoes and tricks, and I might as well say it, like we was getting all that type of music by the time you got into like teenage years and things like that, basically telling us, hey, well, basically these objects, you're the man if you, and then the music they're growing up, the man gets the woman in the end, or the man gets the women in the end. Um, no, take them home, have sex, do whatever. None of these songs taught us about pregnancy. Songs, except for a few, and there was a few artists. Tupac was one of the most famous ones. That came out with a song about young women getting. Was trying to put that message out there, but there were songs that was something positive and telling you, hey, you go out here, you're having sex. Well, guess what? This may happen. You might get pregnant, or you might get pregnant. There's AIDS, there's diseases, there's whatever. You had 20 other songs in the top 20. You know what I'm saying? Because those are the top 20 said, hey, go out there, have as much sex as you can. Um, do it up. If you don't get the girl, then you're not down. It kind of made it to the point where, as a kid, you was more important with either the girl that you can get, the grades, than having school or doing things at home. So it was more like this is what, if you want to be cool, if you want to be successful, this is what you have to do. Or not. This is what you have to do. You have to get these. You have to have these women. If they're not having sex with you, they look at as a clown. You look as a virgin. And I went through that too. 7, 8 years old. I remember at the year kindergarten, 4th grade. And I forget this kid to me. He's like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Rob?" And he's talking about what he did sexually to this girl. He's like, that. I'm like, yeah, the other night. I ain't even kissed a girl before. But you watch these videos and things like that. You got to come across like you're the sexual god thing. You don't even know how to take the bus by yourself. But kind of TV music and everything had on kids, it had on teens to the point where, that was just as important as getting good grades. Which is
Yeah. Yeah. You're breaking up a little bit, Legend. But we can hear your voice, but
freeze
the
up.
picture is breaking up. It's breaking up a little bit, but we can hear your voice. Um, I think one of the biggest things about like the music that we listen to,
But
and the lessons that it taught us, or the lessons it didn't teach us, I should say, it didn't teach us like the real value and the real purpose of women to begin with. But then
right,
also it didn't teach us the real value and purpose of who we are as boys or as men. It kind of narrow us down to our genitals. You brag about your sexual
yep,
prowess, like Moses was saying, like that became our measurement of manhood. How many
right,
women you slept with, or how good you was in bed. And as young black men, that's a message that I think
right,
not only young black men, even older black men, I think that's a message that we need to change. That's something that we need to change in our community. So for my last question before I bring our other guests on, what are some of the things or some of the ways you think we can help the younger generation of men change the message and the lessons that they've been learning through music? Look like Legend is frozen.
Yeah, I can
I'm frozen
share.
up.
Okay, go ahead, Legend.
He froze again.
Okay,
Go ahead,
y'all can hear
Moses.
y'all can hear me fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Okay,
can hear you, but you keep freezing.
yeah.
Go ahead, Moses, and I guess Legend could
Like,
probably jump in when
I
you do.
think purpose.
it's freezing on my
I think
too.
purpose is very important. I would say being an example first, because a lot of things we learn through observation. So being an example first, and then I think teaching on the purpose of things is important because um, things get redefined when you don't know the purpose. Like think of as a spiritual leader, I'm just connect things to the spirit as well. Think of the reason why many of us would be molested or introduced to pornography earlier because it perverts the purpose. Because now a miseducation is being handed to you before somebody think it's important for you to have an education. So I think understanding the purpose of sex or the purpose of things in general will help us be more responsible and use it for the reason that it's used. A lot of people to this day, grown people don't know the purpose of sex. The purpose of sex is entertainment or loving somebody, right? Or
Mhm.
getting a man to love you, right? Or you know what I'm saying? All these selfish reasons that we connect the purpose of sex without knowing the original reason why it was created in the first place. And honestly, I'm gonna say like people really need deliverance. I gotta keep it a being with you. I gotta keep it 100
Mhm.
because not only is there a miseducation, not only do we have wrong information, but if we believe it's a God, it's also an enemy that's operating in people's lives based on this miseducation and this indoctrination. So I think people need deliverance, they need breakthrough, they need environments where they can share their heart and heal and really talk about the deep-seated issues that we just act like never happened and cover it up. So we need safe environments for us to, unmask and be, it's probably a weird word for men to be vulnerable and talk about what happened to you, you got molested or whatever, and really unpack that so you can be healed and stop covering it up with, I'm saying, a pretended bravado or, I'm saying, a fake masculinity. I'm saying? A lot of times people overdoing being hard because somebody took something from them, right? So I think those things is important. And I think just if we really think about the purpose of music in the first place, You know what I'm saying? Or the purpose of images in the first place, because we created to interact with things through all of our senses, not just one. So the more our senses are engaged, the more real something becomes to us, right? So we hear it, and then we singing it over ourselves, and then we see the images that's connected to it, then we have dreams about it, and we fantasize while we at school about it. So it makes it so real inside of our heart. So nothing is never just music, no way, because we use music to connect our heart to information. We use music to connect our heart to realities. If you're trying to lay down with your wifey, with your wife, you know what I'm saying, or your husband, but even if you're trying to lay down with whoever, you don't play Kirk Franklin. Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't play John P. Key. Like, you play R. Kelly 12 play, because it's going to connect hearts and minds to a certain reality of the mood you're trying to set. I remember learning this years ago, but the scientists say that when music is played, the I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but I understand the concept. You know, you got your right brain and your left brain. One part of your brain receives the information, and the other part stores it. But you know, as much information that your brain receives every second, your brain can't store all that information. So there's something in your mind. I don't know what it's called, but it's something in your mind that separates the information that is useful that needs to be stored. Well, music, you know what I'm saying? Music causes that part of your brain to not function. It's like it's paralyzed. So all the information gets in. You know what I'm saying? All the information gets in. So there's no such thing as it's just music. Whatever you listening to is teaching you something, because music, it stops that part of your brain from actually trying to separate the information that's useful to it. And it's just letting all the information in. So I'm just saying that about, you know what I'm saying, the music part, about the purposes of it, because music has a purpose. It's to create atmosphere. It's to create mood. It's supposed to make it easier for you to learn. It sets your affections. It sets your heart on certain things. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's not just music. If you understand, that's why heaven is full of music, and that's why music is created, then we would be more selective in the type of music that we listen to or allow around our children, because we can all testify that music is a big part of that indoctrination. Forgive me for
Yeah.
being long-winded, but I think that was important.
You good, brother. You good. No, thanks for that. Appreciate it. What about you,
Okay,
Legend?
so let's see if I am
Before
I
we do,
unfroze now.
no, you're
Now
good
you
now.
good, bro.
Okay,
As soon as you
perfect.
feel
I'll
ready.
try to make it short before I start something up.
Okay.
um, First and foremost, right? So as being young men, or even with the young women, right? But we're talking about young men, they need guidance. Okay, when you don't have someone that you come and ask these questions to about sex, about relationships, about girls, about how to go about things, they're going to turn to other sources. And for a lot of us, and a lot of them now these days, that sources is what they see in music. It was not the music, it's the reality shows. Not reality shows, is social media. Because there's nobody in the I say things like that, because a lot of us, we when we grow up in these households, we don't have anybody that we can be comfortable enough to say, hey, well, so how do you put a condom on? You know, when we was growing up and you asked one and got ready, you know how to put a condom on, you ain't had sex, this, that, whatever. Or why are you even having sex? You know? Music is the universal language. So no matter, no matter what you speak, no matter from what part of the world you come from, everybody, and what brings people together most of the times is music. So what we have to understand with a lot of our youth here is that when you listen to some of these songs, right, and they're talking about romancing and doing this and doing that, just as Brother Moses said. When you go into the bedroom or you're in that romantic situation, unfortunately, they're not playing church music. They're not playing, Star Spangled Banner or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? They're not even probably playing happy music. They're gonna play that romantic, get you in the mood, get her comfortable, let's get it on type of thing.
Mhm.
What you have to understand is, okay, that's cool and all, but in video, the video goes on. In reality, guess what? You go through, you have that sex. Now you've got relationship. Now you got feelings involved. If you didn't have unprotected sex, if you had unprotected sex, I should say, now you got to worry about STDs. You got to worry about if there's a pregnancy involved. See, the video doesn't shut off when you're in real life and you're playing that song. The song goes off, you turn on another song. But in reality, that doesn't happen when you're young. And once you go and you make certain mistakes, some people have a hard time recovering from that. So what I think we have to do is, instead of having our youth so much going to this music and social media as far as places to learn about sex and how to be in relationships, they need to come with family. They need to come with older people that can counsel, that's been through the situation. Um, and it always comes from home when you're speaking to somebody that you know face to face, person to person. To me, it comes off more genuine. To me, you could trust it more. If you're sitting with me and I could tell you, hey, well, I did this and this does that happen, but if you go this route, this can happen, or what have you. To me, I think a lot of people take that more seriously. If not, if they have no other choice, they're going to find out what's going on TV. They're going to look at these videos because everybody else at school is talking about it. Everybody else at football practice is talking about it. When you're hanging out, they're talking about, oh, did you see that new video? Oh, did you see this girl? Did you see that? What's the new dance? What's the new challenge out of this now? So unfortunately, a
Yeah,
lot of education of our youth is coming off of social media, TV, music, and it should be coming
yeah,
from home, from church, from school.
yeah. No, that's
Absolutely.
really, some guidance. They definitely need some guidance, and that's my
True.
hope for this whole thing. To add
Absolutely.
some credible guidance for young men. Um, but we're not done with the conversation. I mean, I could talk to the two of you guys all night, but y'all, as y'all know, we have some more special guests that I want to add to the conversation. We've had some lovely young ladies sitting in the background, backstage, just listening to what we're discussing, and I'm going to add them to the stream because they have some questions for us. They not only have some questions, I'm sure they have their opinions and their input on what they heard. So allow me to add Miss Tammy Anderson. Hey, Tammy,
Hey,
and
everybody.
add Andrea. Does she add? Okay.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, ladies. How y'all doing?
Amazing. How are
Doing
you?
amazing. Having a good evening.
Oh, great, great. I'm happy to hear that. So, as you know, we've been having this discussion for the past 35, 40 minutes or so, and y'all been backstage listening to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that something was said, probably sparked some interest or some questions. I don't want it's to have a conversation with just the guys because the lessons that we learn, it doesn't only impact us, but it impacts women. The unhealthy sexual habits that we practice growing up, it affects y'all even more than it affects us in a lot of cases. It damages a young woman's self-esteem. It breaks her down. Like I said, we end up not using her for the purpose where she was created, or because of the messages and the images and the things that were planted into our minds through the music and through the music in the music videos.
Yeah.
So right now, basically, the show is yours. I'm handing it over to you guys. We're open book for whatever questions or whatever thoughts you might have had from the first part of the show. So yeah, I'm handing it over to you.
Hey, Sissy. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
You can go first. I'll jump in.
Well, I definitely thank you for inviting me onto the show. I want to thank my two brothers, Mr. Moses and Dr. Legend, for being so transparent and getting the conversation started. And thank you for AB for your amazing ministry and all that you do to help us as couples, because miseducation just means a lack of proper education. Is that fair to say? Right? And I love the fact that you're having this conversation because it's needed. I was just telling one of my best friends the other day how a guy that I dated, he had a lot of very interesting sexual conversations and interesting ways that he tried to deal with the women that he dated. But I was telling her, as I've, now have matured, and we were probably, I don't know, in college or what have you, he was molested by his auntie. His auntie used to molest all the boys in their family. And just like alcohol, if you enter these things into a child's life, their mind and their body is not ready to handle it at that age, right? And so a lot of times, if you think about it, these situations has created incest in our families. And it's also made it very difficult for men and women to relate to each other because you're like, oh, she's so boring, she's so conservative. But did we even look to say, well, you may have some interesting ways that you deal and you interact because of what happened to you that created a different kind of trauma within your sexual side of your person. So I just think it's really good to have these conversations. So when you start dating, I'm looking at it from this perspective. You look at Hollywood, you look at the music industry, they have greenlighted these songs. Because in all reality, they want to pit us against one another. So a lot of times, if you're not getting along with a woman struggling getting along with a man, we're not relating because of some of these deeper things that's been embedded in us and embedded in us. I think Legend said it, and I think AB said it, because the music you're hearing constantly over and over and over. And as Moses had mentioned, a part of your brain, the logical side, is literally cut off. And all you're doing is taking this in. So now this is a part of your psyche, and it's a part of how you think and how you move in relationships. So I wanted to start off by making that comment and then by saying, how do you feel we have solutions within families, young boys? Because Frederick Douglass talked about it's easier to build stronger children than it is to repair broken men. It's very difficult because I think someone said this. Will a man be willing to go to counseling and talk about this openly? Will a man go back and talk to his abusers if it's an auntie or a cousin? Because sometimes I find that men are uncomfortable talking about those things in a forum with their family members. But it's like, what do you suggest have been solutions? That's one question. And then the second part would be, do you find that for yourself or other men, they've had a hard time relating to women because of all these isms and proclivities? And we all have them, so it's no judgment. But I just think it's fascinating that you're willing to share, and I'm so thankful that you're willing to have that conversation and talk so honestly so that we can all get healed. Because if our men have a problem, we have a problem, okay? So
Yeah, I would thanks for that question and like everything you said. I totally agree with that, Tammy. Um, you know what? I'm glad that therapy is becoming less taboo in the black community, and is even becoming less taboo amongst men. Um, I work with a lot of men that are happy to find a place or find a space where they can talk about stuff like this. It's more accepted now. It's not to the level where we want it to be, but it's opening up, and guys are becoming more vulnerable. They're able to talk about the things that hurt them, their pains, their traumas, things that distress them. So I'm glad for that. It's happening more and more. I see it. When it comes to the boys, I think it's important for us to catch them early. Um, I always say I started talking to my son, not necessarily about sex. I didn't start talking to him about sex at the age of 4, but I started talking to him about his sex. What his body parts was, what was a good touch, what was a bad touch. Teaching him the proper names of his sexual organs, and then teaching him about a female's anatomy as well, and what's the proper touch for a girl, what's a bad touch. So of course, as he grew and as he got older, the conversation matured, and I got into more details of you know sexual habits and how to respect your body and respect women. But I really think that conversation needs to start early with boys. We can't wait till they turn 13 or 14, because by then there was a second grader in his class that learned some perverted stuff from his household that already fed into your son. So we can't wait till they 13 and 14 no more. It's too late.
Absolutely.
amen. Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Moses, Legend, y'all can jump in as well.
And you know what's important about that, right? I'm just thinking about it. I don't think I've ever. I know. I don't have to think about. I haven't. I never had the birds and bees conversation. Does that really exist?
Believe me, a lot of men have it. A lot of men
I
have
ain't
it.
gonna hear. I'm so serious. On everything. And as much as I've been through, in many situations that I've been in, I never ever got that talk. Okay. Um, and like I said, and as and I was just going off of what you were saying, AD, that's the whole thing. So where else was I going to learn anything like that from? Now, some of the things my mother did talk to me, some about, y'all might scratch your heads, like, okay. She showed me certain things as far as I've been in a female situation, like how to act or do whatever, but never sitting down and talking about, okay. Like I said, once again, I don't even know what the birds and bees is about. I can take a guess based off of TV, but never had those conversations. And this is Tammy said, you have to get them. It's best to get these young men when they're young, when they're boys. To me, you never give up on anybody, but once we're into the ages and mindsets that we're in and the lifestyles that we're in right now, it's very hard to get somebody to think differently or to see it or even try to give you a chance to see things from a different perspective because it's already so drilled up here. So now it's just like this is the way it's been, this is the way it's going to be, even if it hasn't been making you happy. So it's very important, that if you could get them while they're young and sit down and talk with them, because sometimes it might not even be about them coming out and talking to you. You might can see what's going on, and you, hey, let me talk to you, let me have a conversation, because that happens, and a lot of it happened with me. I was blessed enough. Maybe my parents wasn't telling me what right and wrong was, and like I said, with my family, with my nephews, they were my same age, so it was basically kids listening to kids. But I did have adults from the outside pull me to the side and say, "Hey, look at this, look at that, do this, do that." And unfortunately, that's not the case in a lot of situations. So we do have to be mindful of that and see what we can do to, like I said, get these young men and young, like I said, young people, period, before they start getting out here making these mistakes. And even if the mistakes they're not caught up with, then you keep making those mistakes is going to catch up with you later.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in if that was okay. I agree with everything being said. I also want to just add this about what do we see. Obviously, we can't control what everyone sees, but we can control what we put out there because um in the word of God, God said that he would speak to the messengers through visions and dreams. Through visions and dreams. A vision is imagery, a dream is imagery. And even if you break down the word of God, the, the, the communication of the word of God was Hebrew, but the original Hebrew language is pictures. So we see that God as a spirit being communicates through imagery, right? So it's other spirits that communicate through imagery. That's why a lot of things going on in the world today is so many graven image. It's like so many people trying to recreate what family looks like or what this looks like, or and then it's recycled over and over. It's shown to you so much that it become normalized.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that just to add on to what everyone else was saying, that one of the things that I pray about, or one of the things that I think about, I try to control what I put out there, especially on social media. So you go on Instagram or the Facebook Reels, and there's so many things recycled because it's cool. So the ladies shaking their legs, or they do got all these weird dances and things that they do, showing body parts or whatever, and they keep being recycled as cool. The more being bombarded with these messages we're being communicated to. So I think that I try to show something different. So if I post things, I try to post something positive that reflects what people need to see. Because even if we educate people the right thing and they're seeing something different, what they're seeing is still communicating to them. That's one of the things. Like in the inner cities, it's not like there's nobody teaching the right stuff. I had people trying to teach me the right stuff when I was young, but that stuff that I was learning was swallowed up by what I was seeing. So people telling me, you need to go to school, you need to get an education. But the reality of what I'm seeing the drug dealer get all the money. I'm seeing the person that got all the women get respect. I'm not seeing the person that's educated be prosperous. So you're telling me that, but what I'm seeing is communicating more to me. So I just wanted to add that part to it because that seeing part is important. And every day we bombarded with image of sexuality.
every day.
You want to buy a beer, they got a woman half naked talking about beer. What does she have to do with getting a beer? Because the sex sells.
Yes.
Every movie got sex. Every ad is there's a sexual innuendo. They got a woman half naked with Jordans on trying to show you Jordans. Like that. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like
You can't buy a
we
car
got to
without a
think
sexy
about
woman
that.
with that car. Mhm.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We got to think about that when we're fighting this fight. Maybe we can't change the world, but even with our sons, our nephews, make sure that as much as possible, we're putting the right image in front of them. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That as you begin to see that and you think about that image, it creates a reality in your life. We all know that, especially when it comes to sex, because the majority of the sexual reality that the majority of your sexual reality happens in your mind before you ever. That's why you're pursuing hard after this woman, because you've already envisioned her with no clothes on. And we know that when you think about it in your mind, it creates a reaction in your flesh. All the men know that. The women know it too. Now you're having a fleshly reaction to what you're thinking in your mind. So I'm saying that the image is important of what we put out there as an example, what we're posting on social media, what we're reposting, what we're allowing our children to see, what example. And like AB said and Legend said, I make sure my son, he's 7. But like AB said, I realized when he was 2 and 3, I let him, he was more like with his sisters and his mom. When he got like 2 or 3, I realized at that time I needed to step in like never before, because he was learning a lot of things from his mom, his grandmother, his sister. So I would tell him, listen, don't talk like that, son. Not in a judgment, but he don't know. You know, I'm in the shower, he come in the bathroom, I gotta explain body parts to him now. So whatever he was being exposed to, I made it my business to try to have a conversation. Like men don't do this, son. Men do that. Men don't do that. And try to show him that example. And I know I'm being long-winded. I'm sorry. But when I am a bad example to my son, I still use that as a opportunity to educate him, to give him a better visualization. He might see me and my wife arguing one day, and it might really hurt his heart. So I have a sit down and have a conversation to reinforce the image of God, that marriage is supposed to be love and unity, not arguing and fighting. So I'm just saying that we need to take as many opportunities to show the right example and to teach the right example as well. So I'm sorry for being long-winded, but I hope that helps.
I think what everyone has said has added so much value. I think even to our audience, as you can by the comments, I've enjoyed the conversation so far. Legend and Moses, I thank you guys so much for being so transparent and for sharing your stories with us. As I was listening to you guys' stories, I was wondering, how did you take those steps to get away from those negative images and those negative things that were positioned in your mind to getting something positive and turning saw what you experienced into something great, and being able to be on a platform like this and have these type conversations? What were some of the steps that you took to changing what you experienced to what you wanted to happen in your life and to help other men?
I could jump in. Well, I would say one word sticks out in my mind that caused me to make a change, and that's responsibility. Responsibility and relationships. I should say 2 words. The responsibility of having a son. That was a major turning point in my life, because now I'm an example for someone else. I've always been an example, but I didn't look at it that way. Now I know I have somebody that I created that's looking up to me. So he's watching my every action. He's watching my every word. He's watching my every step. And so everything I do will have a direct impact on who he becomes as a man. So having the responsibility of a child was a major turning point in my life. And deciding to truly build a relationship with God was the other relationship. I mean, was the other turning point in my life. Because despite having a child, despite having responsibility, I still wrestle with a lot of fleshly things. And only God could really help me even try to overcome some of that. So it was those two things that really made me change a lot of my behaviors, change the way that I thought. You know, I had a lot of one of my therapeutic words. I had a lot of like cognitive distortions because I was hit with those messages and those images with such a high intensity and with so much frequency. Like I really was trying to emulate the people that I seen, the artists, the music, like in my life. I really was trying to live that stuff out, and it was not until I started getting other messages, like going to church and reading my word and have something opposing those messages, is when I really started to change.
Powerful.
Amen, bro. Legend.
I'm trying to see. I'm clicking it off now to see. Can y'all hear me? Because my signals are going crazy over here. But I've been catching this thread that I've been saying. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good to go. Okay. All right. So let me be a little bit more transparent here, right? Because hey, we're here telling the truth and learning from experiences, right? So when I was a young teen, my very first girlfriend, my very first a lot of things was actually a adult woman in college, believe it or not. So this is how much the times have changed, right? One thing that I've been lucky about, if that's what you want to call it, I've always had older people in my life to educate me a little bit more on things than what I was being shown on music, TV, etc. Obviously, being a kid, and dealing with an older adult person, that's not the way to go. But once again, if you're, and this is a prime example, if you're not getting this guidance and this everything from home, you're going to look outside of it. So it was either the videos, the music, or whatever, or this girl, that I met, that we wound up having a long-term relationship with. Um, and she was actually into the medical field, so she taught me a lot about things to stay away from. Now, once again, a lot of people can look at that as like, okay, that's not that's not what we want to suggest for our youth to go with. We don't want them dealing with older people, what have you. My thing is then, right? So if we don't want them going out to the videos, we don't want them going out to, like I said, dating older people and things like that. We have to have a place for them to go to learn a lot of this stuff. We have to have a place to go where they can get these questions, they can learn these answers, and then they can deal accordingly. Like I said, unfortunately, we're talking about music and the influence. It's the parents that's playing the music. It's not like what me and Moses was talking about, where we snuck downstairs and we was watching certain things or what have you. No, these days the parents are in there playing right in front of the kids. They're playing in front of the kids when they're in the play. They're playing in front of the kids, when they're playing. Sometimes they're playing crazy ratchet stuff when they're there with the kids have their own friends over. So a lot of times there's kids from a whole other household that might got the right thing, but when they come to visit their little friend, they're hearing all this craziness. Now the difference here, the friend goes back home. The friend talks to mommy and or daddy or both or what have you. And hey, I saw this, I saw that, and then the parents will sit down and explain, well, you don't want to do this, that, what have you. That kid that's at home where the friend learned all that and heard all this craziness, that kid doesn't have anyone to speak to because guess what? The people in the home are there encouraging it. So, once again, it's when they talk about this education in school and things like that, to me, when it comes to sexual education, that should begin at home and then maybe secondary at church. And then after that, then okay, school, but that's what school counselors, etc. Sexual education is a very private matter as far as I'm concerned. You can learn the basics. You can learn how male and females reproduce. You can learn how, things like of that nature, but when it comes to basic things, even like holding a door open for a woman, which that might be old school now, but that was the thing. Or even like I said, just having a simple conversation with a woman. They're like, hey, what's up, baby? When you coming over tonight? You gonna let me hit that? Like, no, that's not a real conversation. But if that's what
Right.
you grow up and you hear, and you never get told any differently, you have no place to go and ask about that. Then guess what? You're gonna think that's what you're supposed to do, and you're gonna do it. I did it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Many of us has probably done it. Um, like I said, it's just about having the outlet to go to be comfortable and say, hey, you know what? I thought this. I'm feeling this way. What's your suggestions? And
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of our youth don't have um, that whole olive branch. You know, like I said, some will go through like I do because if you're not getting that parental or parent figure at home, you go look for an older person in your life or somebody that you can get that whole umbrella under. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of times that's why those people wind up with younger people trying to seek
Yeah.
relationships from people old enough to be their fathers, mothers, etc. And that's not good either. But like I said, once again, we
Absolutely.
have to pay attention to what these kids are around, and we have to be that outlet for them, and we have to let them know there's an outlet there. Because if you don't
Absolutely.
tell the kids, if you don't approach them about, hey, come talk to me, whatever, they're not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just not the point. If you haven't established that relationship with the youth, they're not going to do it. I didn't do it because it's like, okay, I didn't feel comfortable with certain people, other people I did. So it's all about a comfort level. I think you learn more better, you learn more easily, and you learn more efficiently whenever you're comfortable with the subject matter and with the subject matter expert. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
That's a
I
So
good
agree,
word,
man.
Legend.
can I
Yeah.
ask you a question? So what was it that clicked you to change, like from you? What steps, what happened, like that said, okay, now I'm seeing these negative things, I'm taking this negative in, and now I want to do something different. I'm seeing doing this wrong, but how I'm treating these women wrong. What was it that made you shift?
Yeah. I don't think Moses got a chance to answer that
Sure,
question.
good question.
Yes, that you
Yeah,
haven't asked.
I'm gonna tie
Oh,
both of
Moses,
them
you
in
did.
some specific things. For me, I got incarcerated when I
I
was
remember.
younger, and then I got when I came home. The young lady that did the bid with me, we ended up getting married. It's my wife now. I love her. But I had extreme encounters with God, so that helped me. Number one, I didn't want to disappoint God. But even with a desire not to disappoint God, I knew that certain things still lived inside of me. And then I ended up getting married, and I wanted to love my wife the right way. I didn't want to be a womanizer, and I wanted to be faithful to one woman and learn how to love her. So that was the second thing. And then, like AB said, it was my children. Now, even getting married and having a relationship with God, I still struggle with lust. You know, I kind of graduated from not dealing with a lot of women to every once in a while, maybe some pornography, even being married with children. But I started having some strong reality checks, even having a relationship with God. I still was struggling with these things and trying to fight and trying to suppress it. But I still didn't know how to handle it. I was just suppressing it. So it would still leak out at other times because it was still there. So I would go to church, pray, and I was just suppressing it, and I'd be good for months, and then it would just leak out. And when my daughter was real small, I mean, she had to be like 2 or 3. I'm watching something I ain't supposed to watch, and I didn't click off of it. So I come home, my wife come home, she under the bed with the tablet looking at something inappropriate that I left on the tablet. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, yo, I'm about to pass the same cycles and curses and generational curses down to my daughter that was passed down to me. She wasn't molested and all of that, but I was exposed to the porno early. Now I'm doing the same thing to her. And I had to really look at myself and like, yo, you're supposed to be a man of God, you married, you think it's innocent because other people aren't involved, but it's still damaging your marriage, it's causing a disconnect in your heart. And now you don't forgot to log off, and now your daughter's looking at it. Like that was like, yo, you got to do something. But one thing that I had to, that really helped me, besides the relationship with God and these reality checks of how I was hurting the people that was close to me, because you think it's harmless, it's not hurting nobody, because it's just you in the room in the dark clicking on stuff. But what I realized that sex, it was much more than sex for me. And that's when I really started getting help. So I think a big step is, I know this is a curse word for the Black community because we always think we don't need no counseling and none of that, but therapy and having a therapeutic community to actually learn how to work through some things that was connected to the sex. Because I realized it wasn't just sex. Like I had to work on an addictive personality because I realized I had a lust problem, not just a sex problem. Like whatever I do, I was overdoing it. So when I'm into God, I'm overdoing that. It's like I'm so zealous. It's like I'm overdoing it. Like, or if it's sex, or if it's shopping, like whatever I was drinking, whatever it was like I was always jumping from one extreme thing to the other. So it wasn't just sex. I had like an addictive personality where I had to really learn some balance in my passions and desires, even when it came to God. Because I will be extremely zealous for God in one season and then extremely on the opposite end, like a backslider in another season. So I realized I needed therapy and counseling to actually talk about these things and work through it, because it was so much emotional toxicity and unhealthy emotions that was connected to my sex life. So I realized the reason I would suppress the sexuality with God and all these things, I would just suppress it, but it was still there. I never learned how to deal with it in a healthy way. So what I did was, so after 3-4 months, I would have this binge. If it's pornography or even with the wife, I'd be super extreme. You know, you're trying to push the envelope and it's like, it's not normal. It's not healthy. You know what I'm saying? She like, babe, I want to rest. I'm like, no, this is the woman's job. You know what I'm saying? This being extra. So I realized, why am I doing this? I realized that it wasn't just sex, that it really was depression. So I was using the sex as a healing, because we all know it releases the dopamine. So we know it all releases the dopamine and stuff like that. So it gives you that euphoria like a drug. So a lot of times sex was connected to some type of healing for me, not just the sexual experience by itself. That's why I say therapy is important. I know it's a curse word for the Black community, but we got to get free from that curse right there. We got to be okay with talking through things and having guidance, because we need it. And we need to stop pretending like we don't. So that really helped, because, you know, instead of me, I was learning how to face things, trying to feel better about things through sex. So I was feeling depressed. Maybe I'm feeling like I'm not as productive as a man. That's one thing that a lot of men get depressed about, because we know we created to produce. So we start beating ourselves up because we're not producing. And then, you know, we feel less than a man. Next thing you know, we try to produce in another way. So now we're using sex to give us some type of subconscious fulfillment, as if we're being reproductive, and we're really not, because you're releasing seed. So it's like you get this feeling like you've accomplished something, but you haven't. So it was like I started leaning on that every time I was feeling depressed, or just the anxiety. It's just a lot. Even with women, they might give their body up because they feel rejected, not knowing how to deal with the rejection from men that, you know, they don't have a father and they want this manly attention, and then they get rejected. So now they compromise themselves, even though they didn't plan on giving their body up, because they didn't learn how to deal with the rejection. It's deeper than the sex. I don't know how to deal with my depression, because, man, we're supposed to be tough and we're not supposed to cry. So I never learned how to deal with that emotion of being in transition, in the hardship of it, or grieving or working through that in a healthy way. So I start leaning on stuff, start leaning on sex to make myself feel better. So it's all these unhealthy emotions that's connected to our sexual experience that we literally need therapy and a therapeutic community, so we can learn how to deal with these things in the right way, instead of using sex to cover it up. It's just an immaturity in us, and we just use sex to cover everything up. Even in relationships, you marry, you get a fight, it's like we just have makeup sex, and then you think that just cover everything up. No, you still got to deal with the reality of what's causing the problem in the first place, and a lot of us don't know how to. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know where I'm going into this, but it's a scripture that says the will is present with me, but how to perform it I can't find. And I felt that's Romans chapter 7 for all those that's in the Bible. Romans chapter 7 says, I want to do the right thing. The will is there. I want to do right, but how to perform it, I can't find that. And that's what we need. Like we need like the practicality of how you do these things. How do you deal with rejection? How do you deal with the emotion? How you deal with the grievance? How do you deal with anxiety of performing in this world? Like, how do we deal with that? We don't know how. We want to, but we need practical lessons to teach us how to. Because I just surmise that a lot of our sexual experiences is connected to unhealthy emotional life. I'm sorry for being long-winded, but that's something that really helped me. A therapist and a therapeutic community really helped me be able to deal with my unhealthy emotional life that I was using sex to try to heal. Yeah. Thanks for letting me share.
I know, Tim, you might have a question, but I definitely have to follow up with that, with what you just said, especially about the suppression of our emotions and opposed to the expression of it. And a lot of the guys I work with, and even personally speaking, that's a major issue. Especially that's always attached to different sexual dysfunctions, sexual addictions, like just that inability to express our feelings, dealing with depression, like having attachment issues from way back in the day and not dealing with that, you know, not knowing the proper way of measuring our manhood. So we try to measure it through sex. Like all the stuff that you just said, Moses, like that needing that proper healing is really the source of a lot of our sexual unhealthy behaviors. So I just really needed to just back that up on that one. But I don't know. I don't know if Tammy had another question before we start.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate everything that was said. And it's true. I think somebody posted about that. Like our childhood experiences, it shapes your relationships for the rest of your life. And if you're not aware of that, you go down this life on autopilot. How you interact with the opposite sex, how you interact with same-sex relationships, how you interact with yourself is definitely influenced by that. And I've been on these lives several times and I've shared the ACEs. You guys can look it up. It's a test you take and it talks about your trauma level. And it's very important. You may have had big trauma. It's including molestation. It's including how you were treated. And that's something to look into is ACES. And it's literally adverse childhood experiences. And I want to encourage people, as Moses said, to get a trauma specialist, though, not just a talk therapist. We just sit on their couch for years and never change. But with a trauma therapist, they're trained to help you overcome the things that happen to you because it's affecting our relationships. And I want us to normalize what AB is doing, have conversations publicly about sex. I'm not saying do anything crazy, but I heard a couple people talk about this being such a private thing, but think about what we're talking about. We're talking about the music. Cardi B is talking about the WAP, right? We're talking about lick it like a lollipop publicly. So the public conversation that the world is having is influencing our families. It's influencing our children. So if we keep only having these private conversations, we're not going to be able to move this envelope because they're very public, very rogue with their conversations, with their influence, with their encouragement. They're telling you what to do with your body, with your tongue, with your sexual organs, privately, not privately, publicly. So if we're only going to have a conversation in a private manner, we really don't have a chance to change the conversation, to change the narrative, and to change what's influencing our family. So it's very important that we start to have these conversations and normalize talking about sex. Like my family, my dad, my parents, we talk about sex openly. Like we, and I think it's important. People come around us like, wow, y'all are so different because sex is a big part of our lives. It's who we are. We're designed that way. And I just want to encourage us in our circles, not being weird where people are like, don't invite her anymore. Not weird, but I think that we need to start publicly talking about this type of thing and normalize it because the world is not afraid. They even have a song called Sexual Healing. Okay. They're not afraid to talk about it. It's not an embarrassment and it's not a taboo. And my desire and my prayer is that the church start talking about this without it being such a taboo thing, because that's how the enemy is continue to be able to get in, infiltrate, because the world publicly talks about it. They sing it from the rooftops. They got billboard songs because sex is very important, and it's not a topic that should only be talked about in a private arena. So my last question to the gentleman was this: how do you recommend women, the sisters, to deal with men who have been very sexually experienced and exposed? Because a complaint a lot that I hear, because you'll find these men, they're dating ex-prostitutes. They want to marry the ministers are marrying the strippers. Can I just be honest? They're marrying the strippers because they want to have that experience. And they're saying the church girls are a little bit too conservative for them. So if you can help us and help the ladies, how do we merge these two worlds where the man is trying to get it as much as he can, but the women are taught be chaste, be the Proverbs 31 woman, you'll get the man, but you guys are taught something totally different, and that's not the narrative in music, and it's not the narrative or the conversation in our community. So if you could help us merge the two, how you could still be a lady and still be, pleasing to your man or your husband, but how do we merge these two worlds and these two conversations when they're so vastly different?
I would say it's
Okay.
important.
So let me check. Oh, okay. So what I was gonna say, first of all, let the sex crazed ones be with the sex crazed ones. Let the good Christian folk be with the good Christian folk, and vice versa. Now, sometimes, of course, we have opposites subtract, right? This is the thing, though. And I'm just being honest because for some reason I see this with a lot of my beautiful church queens, right? And I had a friend. I actually have a friend, and she was out here trying to date, and she was finding this one. I said, well, why don't you find somebody in church? Like you go to church, you don't really go other places like that. You know what I'm saying? Like you go to work, you might go to physical therapy, you might go work out. But I'm like, why don't you find somebody in church? That's what you do. You know what I'm saying? And her expression was a lot of the guys in the church um, are either married or they're low down. I'll put it in a nice way instead of how she said it, low down. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, okay, that can't be it. But I see why then that's when the church women go and they be looking on the outside, right? So now they run into the scheming, the sexually, they see this pretty woman here and oh man, she's great. And then I get to talking, right? So the conversation is key. And this is where everything breaks down. The woman is so into the point where she wants to be in a relationship and she thinks this guy's cute and knows she can change him. She says, okay, let's see what we can do. But we're not going to have sex. We're not going to be doing a lot of those things that come before marriage, or at least become before a relationship. You got the guy. He's in dog mode. So you already know what he's been doing, right? Hey, what's up? It's 12 o'clock. Can I through? I'm coming through, etc. So now he meets this woman who actually has some respect and everything about himself. And he's like, you know what? Nah, this is a challenge. You know what I'm saying? I talked to her on the phone a time or two, and I'm gonna get the panties. You know. And at the end of the day, a lot of times that causes so much conflict it wasn't even worth the whole scenario. I go through this a lot because I go through this a lot where I'll meet women who are maybe on a different point in life than I am. You try to make it work, but at the end of the day, women and men, sometimes it's just not going to work. You can't have everybody you want, and sometimes you don't need to be who you want to be with, because sometimes if you can't have it, it might not be good for you. So what I would say is, listen, you stick to what your beliefs are. You stick to what your comfort level is. You don't want to be in a relationship with somebody you're not comfortable with, whether it's what you do, whether what you say, what you act, etc. You have to find somebody that has a balance for you. I understand sometimes that might take a minute. I get it. I've been frustrated too. I'm single now. So the whole thing is just that at the end of the day, though, you don't want to wind up wasting so much time. And this is what you need to keep in your mind. You don't want to wind up wasting so much time with somebody that you don't really have too much along with. You don't have the same goals. You don't even have the same likes or lust or whatever the case you may want to be. What happens too much is people give in one way or the other. So as you were saying, maybe it's the woman that gives into the sexual needs of the man. Or, like I said, it's not always just sex. There's other things, honestly, worse than sex that I've seen women give into just because, okay, hey, I like this guy, I want to do what have you. And it turns into complete catastrophe. Same thing with these men. These men see these women, they see the the practices, the beliefs they have on maybe they don't want to have sex before marriage. Maybe they want to have sex outside of a relationship. What a lot of these guys do is, okay, well, on their ego, I can get that. I get everybody else, I can get that. So they come in and either they ruin this woman to the point where nothing ever gets anywhere. Now she's thinking, well, I lost this guy, so the next guy to come along, I just got to throw it out there because I don't know when I'm going to get another chance. Or the guy does finally get what he wants. The woman sticks around, and then she gets so emotionally and mentally beaten. She's never the same. And then when that goes around because it doesn't stay. So then when she's out the relationship, you know what I'm saying? Now she moves on to the next one, and she's totally screwed in the head. So I tell you, ladies, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? This is from a guy, right? This is from a guy, a single guy. That. So my thing is, don't settle. Don't settle, because whenever you're giving in to the person that, you know what I'm saying, you don't have these certain values or these certain checkpoints with, you're not doing anything different than watching that video when we were kids with all the nasty stuff going on in it. Or you listen to that lyrics, you know what I'm saying, on the music, and you're hearing all this going on, and you're basically subjecting yourself to it. You're saying, okay, well, this is what it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to go ahead, I'm supposed to have sex. I'm supposed to go ahead and I'm supposed to, I don't know, spend the night at this person's house. I'm supposed to do whatever. A lot of, we talk about therapy, and the reason why therapy is because it's a continuing cycle. So you have the good guy, let's say, who meets the bad girl. He's done already been touched, right? So this guy comes in and, oh, I want to be with you. I want to be in love with you. And she's like, whatever. She hurts him. So now he's a dog. He moves on to this beautiful woman over there. She's sitting there quiet. She kind of got a crush on him. She thinks he's cute. He thinks he's dangerous. He been dogged out. So all he can think about is, oh, well, the next one, I'm going to get her back. And then he goes and he carries on his doggish schemes that he learned from the doggish woman that he dealt with before. So now he done turned this woman jaded. We got to stop the cycle. Real talk. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, you do what makes you happy. Happiness comes from yourself first. So once you're happy with yourself, I'm not going to say, look, you run into somebody that likes you for who you are and for those same things. Nothing has to be perfect. You ain't got to hit all checks. But the things that make you happy and it balances over the negative, you go for it. And that might take some time, a meeting, but you'll appreciate it in the end instead of then wasting months or years or even one night, because sometimes one night can equal to a lifetime of mistakes. Just trying to get in where you fit in. So that's all.
Thanks.
Sorry about being long-winded.
Yeah, Moses, jump in there before I wrap.
Yeah. I agree with the brother. I would say for the women of God and for women in general, just know your value. You know what I'm saying? Know your worth and value. Because if don't define your value by how others define your value. Know your worth and value and date. And when you talk about relationships, the core word of relationship is relatability or relate. So relationship, relating, right? And if you look at dating, the core word in that one is data. So I think that right there is where there's the gap with relationships, because I just feel like people don't know how to date. And then like women of God, sometimes our focus is purity in God, and the time that we take to obtain that, now we may not know how to date, because now you've done all of that and now your goal is marriage. And this is probably gonna sound weird, but I think that's not a real, that should not be your goal when you're talking to men, like, or you dating or you building relationships with men. Like, this probably sound weird, but don't make marriage the goal, because no man, like any man that you might even want or you feel is worth it, they're not talking to you because marriage is a goal. I never talked to a woman because marriage was my goal. Even my wife, it's something that we developed as we got to know each other and we built compatibility. Our relationship grew to that type of reality. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying that because I'm a spiritual leader, I'm a pastor, and I know a lot of sisters that be in this boat. They prioritize their spirituality and their purity so long that they don't even know how to date. The first conversation, they talking about things God showed them, their visions and dreams, and they just want to get married. That's red flags right there. That's unhealthy because at every stage you're supposed to be collecting data. You're dating. Let that be your goal. Not trying to have a man or a husband, just simply getting to know people because you might be attracted to this guy, but the chemistry between y'all is has a different purpose. So you just collecting the data, like, okay, there's compatibility here. And then you see the red flags, you just collecting data. And you allow the relationship to progress, you know what I'm saying, according to where the commitment is. That's why I said you're talking about visions and dreams. You're talking about things that's equal to having sex because that's your treasure. That's your secret place. So it's like the first time you're meeting, you're talking about treasures and secret place stuff that they need to be counted worthy to even have that type of conversation with you. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying about learning how to date and gather information and releasing certain things according to the wineskin of that relationship. I'm talking to sisters, so I know y'all know what I'm talking about. Jesus said you don't pour new wine in old wineskins. Right. So if the relationship wineskin is not worthy of new wine, then you got to hold back the new wine until it progressed to that, until the commitment progressed to a place where you can give your heart or you can now give intimate things because you see that the relationship is sturdy enough to uphold it. If you think about it, God doesn't have a problem with sex. God have a problem with sex outside of marriage. You got to listen to what he's saying. It's about not having sex. No, God is saying that to protect you because the things that sex produce should happen inside of a commitment. God is so wise. He's not saying it because he's just righteous and you better do what he say. He's saying that because certain things should happen in the confines of a commitment that's long lasting.
A covenant. Come on, somebody.
Because when you introduce sex, it's going to produce things that is long lasting. You're going to have a child and it's long lasting. Now, you have a child when you're 16, you got to have that forever. That's you got emotional soul ties and all these things forever. You know what I'm saying? For long periods of time. So I'm being long-winded. I'm going to stop. I feel like I'm starting to preach. But I'm just saying that don't make marriage your goal. Just allow yourself to get to know people and build connections with people and let it progress as you build a relationship with somebody. Let it progress into what it's supposed to. Don't just have that standard. It's marriage or nothing. Nah. Because every man that you meet is that you might have a connection with, you might misidentify what the relationship is supposed to be. Or you got this type of attraction or chemistry. If me and you we going into business, we need some type of chemistry. We need to be on the same page and have on the same wavelength. Like it need to flow. So a marriage relationship is not the only place that you need chemistry. We have chemistry on this line because we all on the same wavelength, trying to accomplish the same goal, and our conversation is flowing as one. You see what I'm saying? So my advice would be, obviously, know your value and just learn how to date. Make dating your goal as far as allowing yourself to get to know people. You know what I'm saying? Allowing yourself to get to know people and just gather information. And if a relationship blossoms from that, then cool. If it doesn't, hey, it was nice knowing you. You're an awesome person. If I see you around, praise God, like bless you. You know what I mean? Maybe in another way we can connect in another way. And you got to be okay with just dating and get to know people and just gathering information and allowing relationships to blossom from that. All right, that's all I got.
Brother, I'll be short and sweet, Tammy, and then we can wrap it up. I said I'll be short and sweet. I'll respond to your question, and then then we'll wrap it up. about
Can I,
merging
can I
the two
interject
lives.
so it makes make clarity? Like what we're talking about is how men are here sexually and how women are sometimes not there. So the question was more so saying, I mean, there's a lot of issues in our relationship because of this, right? And so I kind of, that's really the direction. If you can answer from that direction, we're saying the influence of music is telling men to treat women like this. And trust me, we feel that men want to treat you like this, looking at our boobs, looking at our bottom, trying to see how what it might feel like. The reality, if we're gonna be on topic, is if and so when I meet men in church at the store, I feel that sexual energy. So sure, we can be friends, we can date, but within the first 30 seconds to a minute, he's looking at my body. He's determining what that experience might be like. So I'm definitely not the Bible toting type of person or anything like that. But I'm saying, how do we really actually do friendship when the first 30 seconds to minute, 2 minutes, their brother is trying to size us up to see what's up because of the music. So that's what I'm saying from that perspective. You know, if men are so highly sexualized and we're saying just be friends, don't focus on being married, that's fine. But the brother is trying to get all the marriage benefits the first 30 days. Can we be 100 about this conversation tonight, if that's okay?
My first immediate response would be like, don't merge the two. Like you can't merge the two. Like the Bible said, you're unequally yoked. You're on two different pages. With your perspective on where you need to be, whether it's the dating stage or relationship stage. So don't merge the two right away, because as we said, for men, a lot of men, like it's a lot deeper than just the act of having sex for us. Like it's an emotional, psychological, relational hurt that we are going through. So for a young lady to see a man dealing with that type of heaviness and to merge her life with that when she know that she's not on that level, or even if she's on that level, it wouldn't be good. But if she knows she's not on that level, I would say do not merge your life with that. A young lady has to have her boundaries. She has to have her boundaries on what she's going to allow in her life and what she's going to keep out of her life. So a man that needs that type of healing, um, from from whatever sexual deviant behaviors he's go through, you don't want to get with that guy, because you're just going to end up being damaged. To tell you the truth, he, like they say, always say, hurt people hurt people. Like I can say that I know I've hurt a lot of women due to the way I used to think, the way I used to act, the way I used to behave when it comes to sex. And letting a man like that into your life is just going to lead to you being hurt. So support him from a distance. Understand that is deeper than sex for him. You can encourage him if you want, but I would say don't engage in a relationship with the man that hasn't matured or healed to the space where he's ready for a relationship. So like I said, I'll be short and sweet, and that's my answer. I wouldn't even attempt it unless he's a man that's really showing some effort to make a change and to heal from what he's been going through. But don't even merge your life. There's a lot of guys out here that are healed or just aren't on that level of damageness that you can probably meet. So there's a lot of other guys out here. Like I would never say that every man on the face of this earth or every man in your city or in your town is the men that we're speaking about. It's a lot, but it's not every.
Amen. I totally agree with that. I just think that, the conversation, if we're saying how influenced by music are in the women, and while we keep bumping heads, the reality when we break this thing down and look at what's happening in relationships, the rearing in our community and the teachings in our community that we need to, we're leaders in a sense, start to have that conversation on how to get on one page, because eventually a man and a woman is going to merge. Eventually, in a man and a woman, the two will become one, but it's such difficulty. And I just wanted to talk about that root of what the difficulty part of it is, because you want to eventually merge. If people are saying never to merge, that's saying then we're not going to be married, because everybody has some type of proclivity, some type of isms. It's just to what degree do we have them? And unless we're marrying Jesus, we're going to marry somebody with some type of issues. And hopefully, as you said, AB, and I think all the gentlemen said, they've gone through a healing process. But what point do you catch this man at? What point do you catch this woman at? Because these are our actual realities, you know, not necessarily textbook or Bible, but the actual realities. When you start, if you talk to groups of women, and I've seen about 4 or 5 on here just now, the pastor, the bishop, everybody trying to get, you know, in a certain place with them. So I just appreciate the conversation where we can break down the realities of what it looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I think a woman also has to know her capacity and her ability of what she can handle. Like you said, everybody will come with something.
Exactly.
So if you can't handle the trauma or the issue that I come with, don't merge. If God has blessed
That
you with the
part.
capacity
Come
to
on now.
handle what I come, and He's giving me
I
the
agree.
capacity to handle with what you come, it might work out. You
I
know,
agree
there's
with that
definitely.
totally. I
Mhm.
appreciate it. I met a gentleman just quick 30 seconds, and he was trying to have sex with me within the first 30 days. And I said, because he was acting so distraught, like distraught, y'all, like his life was over. I'm the perfect woman for him, but I'm denying him of everything a man needs. And so I said, let me ask you something. I said, how is it going with all the women that you've had before me? We're in our late 30s. All the women before me that you had a lot of sex with, how is that working out with them? And he said, you know what? I never thought about that. So I challenged him. And literally, I got tons of gifts, tons of great treatment from this man. He said, because no woman ever challenged that philosophy that he had, that a woman only cared for him. A woman was only interested in him if she had sex with him within the first 30 days. And so I definitely appreciate what you just said, AB, because we also have a responsibility as women to uphold whatever that standard is for your life. If it's 3 months, 6 months, a year until you're married, I'm not in judgment. I'm just saying we also hold a responsibility, not putting all the responsibility on the man, which we hear a lot. It's also our responsibility to challenge some of this crazy thinking, some of this crazy behaviors. You see that man run through the church or that woman run through multiple people. Now you sign up to be the next woman. Why? So I think we also have to just have those engaging conversations where we're willing to challenge ourselves and challenge each other to be better.
This has been so amazing. And I think the one
So
question.
Tammy.
Oh,
yes.
I think Andrea had
No,
a
go ahead,
question.
Andrew.
She said, "Go ahead, Legend." She frozen. I think he's frozen. Yeah.
No, I'm not frozen. Go ahead, Andrew.
Legend,
Go ahead.
You can go ahead, Legend. You had a question for me? Or
No, I was gonna say something to Tammy. It's all right. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm interested in hearing. Let's go.
Nah, it was just a comment about you stress.
Go
Yeah,
ahead, make your comment.
you stressed that
Andrea,
man over his deadline, his 30-day deadline. Shame on you.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
I didn't even know that was a thing about the 30 days. Wow.
Oh.
So that's where it's at now. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. That's why I didn't want to interrupt.
But you guys talked about it. You're weird to think this way. When you get with a 30, 40-year-old man from 8 years old, Moses, one of you said from 8 years old, this is the MO. So when I come on these lives, they know if they invite me on, I'm gonna keep it 100. I love God. I go to church, but I feel like we have an obligation to have real conversations, to have real change. I don't want to come on here and have one life or one person that don't hear the real. And this woman like, well, she feeling some type of way. No, this happens to the best of us. I don't carry myself with all my stuff hanging out, but we have to understand what's really happening. The person that gonna preach the best message 1,000 people a couple weeks ago, after he got off the pulpit, he was trying to have me come to his room. And I'm saying that not knocking him, but if we're not gonna have real conversations on, and y'all may have, I know my minister friends, y'all got conversations with women too coming at y'all, but I'm not a man. So I just think I love when we have these engagements so we can get real answers from the ABs, the Moses, the Legend, and not necessarily from my life, but also for the women who are listening. And we can have a real community conversation and get some solutions and answers so that we can move forward with them.
Right. So I enjoyed this conversation to round it out and to kind of And with this, it's something that I think we could give to our viewers, and to the people who are watching. Um, what are some good music? What is something that you listen to that helps you, put you in a place of peace or calmness? Um, and what can you tell men who have struggled with the same things that you struggle with during that time? And how can you like literally take them from listening to this type of music? Okay, let's change over to this.
I think for me, to be totally honest, it the only way it changed is because I matured. The music didn't necessarily have to change for me. My mindset had to. Because I'm not gonna sit here and say I still don't listen to hip hop. I'm not gonna sit here and I'll still listen to old school stuff that I listened to back then, and they still giving the same messages. But I'm a different man now. So I can separate just straight entertainment from something that I want to emulate and want to be. But for a younger man, that's not at that level of maturity, that hasn't developed to that stage yet, I would say he definitely have to put some boundaries around the stuff that he puts in his ear and in his mind, because he's so impressionable around that time. So you know, there's so many different positive type music out there that you can listen to. There's good hip hop out there. There's all the messages isn't about sex and womanizing and things of that nature. I would say, hey, try to listen to that. But if you're at a stage where you're not mature enough to just listen to a lyric and take it as a lyric and keep moving, where you have to really take a song and have to try to live it out, I would say you need to put boundaries around the stuff that you're listening to. And that probably goes for a lot of young men and some older guys. But I think as for me, I've just outgrown that stage um, at this point in my life. Of course, I listen to music that put me in all different types of moods, but I think I have the self control and the self discipline not to act on it anymore.
Awesome, awesome.
As far as with me myself, I never when okay.
No, go ahead, Legend.
Oh, and
Legend.
I was gonna say for myself, as far as music wise, um, so there's a lot of, and I know some of y'all might not listen to rap, but or hip hop or whatever the case may be. There are a lot of positive ones that's out there. J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar. There's a lot of them out there that's not talking about just jumping in and out of bed and all this other crazy stuff. R&B. I'm still a big R&B fan. At the end of the day, though, it's not about what you're listening to, because some of the music with some of this craziness in it is good. You just have to learn to take that. It's a story. It's not a message for you to go out and do. It's a story. you know, you don't
Mhm.
drive back and forth to work in a Porsche. You don't go to prom in a, well, I guess some people do these days in a helicopter, but most people don't go to proms in a helicopter. You're not selling drugs, all through the night. You're living in a trap house, and then you're going to high school the next day. Like I said, you got to understand the fantasy from the reality there. So I still listen. I listen to some of the music. Like I said, I listen to music more or less that I can relate to. For the ones that have a good beat and a good story, I listen to it. I don't take it seriously. I never have. I was trained in music. Maybe that's why I took a different approach, because I studied music all throughout childhood. So, and I've done things in the music industry. So, to me, even when sometimes some people would write my songs, and some of the songs had language in it that I wasn't too comfortable about talking about, because I don't use that language in real life. Why am I going to be, singing or calling women this, that, what have you? Like I said, you just kind of gotta let that all go. Like a lot of these crazy artists that's out now, like I listen to a song here and there. Probably if I seen them on the street, wouldn't recognize who they are. But for a song that's good, I listen to it. It doesn't influence me to go and try to do anything crazy by the end of the night. I suggest most other people do the same. Enjoy the song and know where the song ends, reality begins. That's all.
All right. This was supposed to be a 1 hour conversation, but it was so good it almost went to two. So I appreciate everyone for being a part of the show, being a part of this conversation.
Wow.
Please, real quickly, we can go around if you want someone to connect with you, how they can meet with you, how we can support you. Do you got any things coming up? Let us know.
I can be reached
Legend,
on
you're unmuted.
Facebook under
Okay.
Tammy Anderson.
Um,
I'm also on Instagram under Cleveland Buzz
I'm gonna be on mute.
BUZZ. You can reach out to me if you are entrepreneurial, if you do any kind of entrepreneurial ventures. I help people set up their entrepreneurial businesses. I do everything from LLCs, marketing, business consulting, a lot of real estate. I've been doing real estate forever. So if you have an interest in that, this is a great time. If you're interested in real estate investing, flipping, things of that nature is what I do. And so, yeah, you can reach me once again at Tammy Anderson. I'm on Facebook. Friend request me or follow me. And you can also reach me under Cleveland Buzz, BUZZ. And I do businesses all over the country. So it doesn't matter if you're in the Northeast or wherever you might be. If you're serious about your entrepreneurial journey, I can direct you, guide you. I was a corporate girl, had a job too. I was an entrepreneur forever. So if you're like in that space of thinking about making a transition, feel free to reach out to me.
I'm Andrea. I'm Andrea Purry. Everything on Facebook, Andrea on Instagram, Andrea underscore Purry. I have two different ventures that I do. Real Talk, We Talk, um, which is a show that airs on Thursdays, every other Thursday on Facebook and YouTube. And we do the Godly View on Saturday, every other Saturday. And I also have a nonprofit called Super Supporters for Singles, where we help single mothers and singles. And if you want to get more information about that, go to www.wholewomensconference.com.
Legend, Moses, where can we reach? Where can we reach you at?
So yeah, you can just reach me on Facebook, Moses Griffin. If you want to reach out to me. But like I said earlier, I'm the senior visionary of School of Light Church. So we're doing a lot of things in the community. We're doing so many things. I can't even go on this right now. But if you're interested in the things that we do, we got suicide and depression ministry. We help people with suicide and depression. We got clients. So I can't even think right now. We're doing in Pemberton, trying to build that community up. And among some other things, I can't. Right now, if you're interested in anything that I shared or talked about or connected with me in a different way, you can hit me on Moses Griffin, Facebook, or you can just connect with our ministry, School of Light Church. It's on Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. But thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me share today. It was a blessing.
Thank you, brother. Legend.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me. Once again, my name is Legend Damian Simmons. It's spelled down there, Damion. I'm an actor, entertainer, as well as a co-host of the podcast Extreme Truth Podcast with X, no E at the end, so XTREME Truth Podcast, which shows Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live on Zoom. I'm also a co-star in the hit stage show Love Under Contract, courtesy of Hollywood Productions, which should be starting back up tour next month. Obviously, because of the way the world is going right now, some things were delayed. So we make sure everybody is safe and secure, and whatever places are doing their rules, they're doing it. So we will be back in effect with that. Once again, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube. So you can definitely look me up there. I'd be more than happy to hear from you. I definitely appreciate everyone that I was up here sharing all this knowledge and talk with. It was good to get some things off my chest tonight. So, AB Bracewell, I definitely appreciate you, brother, for the platform. Um, Brother Moses, it's a pleasure. Brother Andrea, sister Andrea, sister Tammy. Thank y'all so much for joining in, because I love to have that female perspective too. So it's a little different from what I'm used to on Monday nights and some agape nights. Appreciate that. And definitely appreciate everybody that tuned in. Thank y'all all for tuning in.
All right. Thanks. My name is AB Bracewell. I thank everybody for watching, all your comments. Of course, Moses, Legend, Andrea, Tammy. I really appreciate all the insight and the wisdom that y'all brought tonight. Please, I'm going to probably be reaching out to you guys again for us to do it again. It's sometime down the road. But this is the sexual miseducation of Black men. Have a great night.